Different person, same story. Different face, same dynamic. Different relationship, same ending. If you have ever looked back at a string of relationships and noticed a pattern, the same kind of unavailability, the same hot and cold, the same moment where you realize you're giving far more than you're receiving, and wondered, why do I keep ending up here? This video is the answer, because here's what almost nobody tells you. You are not attracting the wrong people by accident. You are attracting them by design, a design built inside you before you had any say in it. And the truly unsettling part, the people who feel most right to you, most magnetic, most electric, most like home, are often the ones most perfectly calibrated to recreate the wounds you've been carrying the longest. Today, we are going to talk about why. 6 psychological reasons. The one that runs deepest. And, most importantly, what you can actually do to change the pattern. Not just understand it, change it. Stay until reason 5. It's the one most people spend their entire lives not seeing. Welcome to the Relationship Blueprint, where we go beneath the surface of relationships and give you the psychology and the tools to actually change. Subscribe if you haven't. New video every week. Let's get into this. Before we go into the 6 reasons, let's establish one foundational truth. Because without it, nothing else in this video will fully land. We don't choose partners primarily with our conscious mind. We choose them with our nervous system. And our nervous system doesn't choose what is good for us. It chooses what is familiar. Familiar means the emotional temperature, the dynamic, the feeling of this relationship matches a template that was laid down in our earliest experiences of love and connection, usually in childhood, usually with caregivers. This is not poetic metaphor. This is neuroscience. The brain pattern matches at a speed far faster than conscious thought, and the patterns it matches against are the ones it learned first and rehearsed longest. Familiar doesn't mean healthy, it means known. And your nervous system will choose known over good every single time until you teach it something different. Here are 6 reasons that keep the pattern running. Reason 1. You confuse familiarity with chemistry. The nervous system trap. The pattern. You meet someone and feel an immediate, overwhelming pull. It feels like destiny, like recognition, like coming home. The person who is kind and consistent feels flat by comparison. That immediate electricity you feel with certain people. It is not chemistry. It is not destiny. It is your nervous system recognizing a familiar emotional signature and lighting up in response. If you grew up in an environment where love came with unpredictability, intensity, or having to work hard for attention, then unpredictability, intensity, and having to work hard will feel like love. The calm, consistent person doesn't trigger the same neurological response, not because the connection isn't real, but because your nervous system hasn't learned to read safety as excitement yet. The psychology. The brain releases dopamine in unpredictable reward cycles, the same mechanism behind slot machine addiction. Inconsistent love is neurologically indistinguishable from a gambling loop. You keep pulling the lever, hoping for the payoff. The shift. Start noticing the difference between the pull of familiarity and the warmth of genuine safety. Ask, does this person make me feel alive, or do they make me feel anxious? Those can feel identical until you learn to tell them apart. Ask yourself, when I feel that instant magnetic connection, am I drawn to who they are or to how they make me feel about myself? Reason 2, you are drawn to what you recognize, not what you need. Repetition compulsion. There is a concept in psychology called repetition compulsion, first described by Freud and since validated extensively by attachment researchers. It refers to our unconscious drive to recreate familiar relational dynamics. Not because we enjoy the pain, but because the unconscious mind has an agenda to revisit the original wound with a different outcome. We are drawn to people who emotionally resemble the caregivers who shaped us, not in appearance, not necessarily in personality, but in the emotional dynamic they create. The push and pull, the withholding and the warmth, the needing to earn love, the never quite feeling secure, and the hope, always unconscious always, is that this time it will be different. This time, the unavailable person will choose us. This time, we will finally get the love we needed then. The psychology. The unconscious mind does not distinguish between the past and present. It experiences a familiar emotional dynamic as an opportunity for repair, even when the situation is simply repeating the original wound. The shift. When you feel drawn to someone who activates old wounds, that pull is information, not instruction. It is your unconscious saying, "This is familiar." Your conscious job is to decide whether familiar is what you want. You are not looking for the right person. You are looking for a corrective experience with the wrong kind of person. Therapy is specifically designed to give you that corrective experience without the cost of another harmful relationship. Reason 3, your self-worth sets your floor, not your ceiling, what you believe you deserve. Your self-worth functions like a thermostat for what you will allow in relationships. Not consciously, you would never say, "I believe I deserve to be treated poorly." But below the level of conscious thought, there is a felt sense of what is normal, of what feels like your level, of what feels like enough. And when someone treats you better than that felt sense, it triggers discomfort. It feels like too much, like something is off, like they must not really know you, because if they did, they wouldn't be so consistent, so kind, so present. And when someone treats you at or below that felt sense, it feels like a match, like this is realistic, like this is what relationships actually look like for people like you. The psychology. Early experiences of conditional love. Love that had to be earned, that disappeared without warning, that came with criticism or neglect, install a core belief. I am lovable only under certain conditions. That belief becomes the set point, the floor. Everything below it feels normal. Everything above it feels suspicious. The shift. You cannot attract better than what you believe you deserve for long. Improving your relationship choices without improving your self-worth is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The old patterns keep surfacing. The work is internal before it is relational. Ask yourself, if someone consistently kind, available, and honest showed up in my life, would I find reasons to dismiss them? What would those reasons be? Reason 4, you mistake drama for depth, intensity versus intimacy. There is a widespread and deeply damaging confusion between emotional intensity and emotional intimacy. Intensity looks like highs and lows, dramatic arguments followed by passionate reconciliation, the constant uncertainty of not knowing where you stand, the relief, almost euphoric, when they come back after a period of distance, the sense that this relationship is alive, urgent, consuming. Intimacy looks like being fully known and still chosen, conflict that is uncomfortable but doesn't feel threatening, the ability to be boring together without it meaning something is wrong, safety, consistency, the low hum of being genuinely at peace with another person. If you grew up in an environment where emotional intensity was the primary expression of love, where big feelings meant deep caring, you will have learned to read intensity as love. And intimacy will feel, at first, like indifference. The psychology. The nervous system calibrates to the emotional amplitude of its early environment. A high-amplitude childhood produces a nervous system that needs high amplitude to register connection, and misreads low amplitude as disconnection, even when real intimacy is present. The shift. Ask yourself, during a calm moment in a relationship, does this feel boring, or does this feel safe? Those can feel identical if you have never lived inside safety before. Learning to sit inside calm without interpreting it as absence is one of the most important skills in breaking this pattern. Drama is not depth. Chaos is not passion. The relationship that requires you to suffer to prove it's real is not a great love story. It is a wound looking for company. Reason 5. You attract what you haven't healed, not what you want. The mirror principle. This is the one most people spend their entire lives not seeing, and it is the hardest one to hear. So I want to say it as carefully as I can. The relationships we keep entering are not random. They are, in a very real psychological sense, mirrors. They reflect back to us the parts of ourselves we haven't yet integrated, the wounds we haven't healed, the beliefs we haven't updated, the needs we haven't learned to meet for ourselves. This does not mean you caused your pain. It does not mean the people who hurt you were your fault. Abuse is never the victim's mirror. Cruelty is never deserved. What it means is this: until we do the work of understanding what drives our choices, what we are unconsciously seeking, what we are unconsciously signaling, what kinds of connections feel like home, we will keep being pulled toward the same magnetic center. The person who hasn't healed their fear of abandonment will keep attracting people who leave, not because they deserve to be left, but because their nervous system is exquisitely tuned to the frequency of emotional unavailability and keeps finding it, even in crowds of healthy people. The psychology. We broadcast our internal state in ways we are not consciously aware of. Body language, the stories we tell about ourselves, the dynamics we initiate, the red flags we explain away. All of these send signals that certain kinds of people respond to. Healing changes the signal. The shift. Ask not just, why do I keep choosing this type? But what does staying in this type of relationship allow me to avoid about myself? The answer to the second question is often where the real work begins. Ask yourself, what story about myself is this relationship confirming? And is that story actually true? Staying here for just a second. What we're talking about in this video, the unconscious patterns, the nervous system calibration, the mirror principle, this is the territory where self-help can take you so far, and professional support takes you the rest of the way. A therapist trained in attachment or parts work can help you access and shift the patterns we've been describing in a way that watching videos simply can't. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online whenever works for you. Link is in the description. It's worth it. One more reason, and then the part that actually changes things. Reason 6. You tolerate what you're familiar with and call it love, normalized pain. The final reason, and perhaps the most quietly destructive, we adapt. Human beings are extraordinary at adapting, and one of the things we adapt to over time is mistreatment. Not dramatic, obvious abuse necessarily, but the slow erosion, the consistent minimization, the unpredictability that becomes background noise, the loneliness you've learned to call normal. When you have been in a painful dynamic long enough, your nervous system stops flagging it as a threat. It becomes baseline. And when you leave, or when that relationship ends, the absence of that particular pain feels like something is missing, not because it was good, but because it was known. And so the next person you are drawn to carries a similar frequency, not because you are broken, but because your baseline for what relationships feel like was set by environments that did not serve you, and it hasn't been reset yet. The psychology. Trauma bonding research shows that intermittent reinforcement, unpredictable cycles of warmth and withdrawal, create stronger emotional bonds than consistent love. The bond formed in difficult relationships is often more tenacious than the bond formed in healthy ones, which is why they are so hard to leave and so easy to replicate. The shift. Your baseline can be reset, but it requires sustained exposure to different, genuinely different dynamics. Not just intellectually understanding what healthy looks like, actually experiencing it in therapy, in friendships, in the relationship you build with yourself. You don't know what you're settling for until you experience what not settling feels like. That experience is available to you, but you have to be willing to sit inside its unfamiliarity long enough to let it become your new normal. Breaking the pattern. What actually changes this 6 reasons? Deep, real, and, I want to say this clearly, not your fault that they exist. You didn't choose the environments that created these patterns, but you are the only one who can change them. And you can. Here is how. Break the pattern. 1. Stop trying to choose better. Start trying to understand your chooser. The instinct, after recognizing a pattern, is to try harder to make better choices, to make a list of what you want, to swipe left on red flags, to be more careful. But willpower applied to an unconscious pattern is like trying to hold smoke. The pattern operates below the level of deliberate choice. Changing it requires going to the level where it lives, which is emotional, not rational. Instead of asking, what kind of partner do I want? Spend time asking, what does this pattern of attraction tell me about what I believe about love, about myself, about what I expect relationships to feel like? That inquiry, taken seriously, is the beginning of real change. Break the pattern. 2. Make the unconscious conscious. Start mapping the pattern. Take a piece of paper. Write down your last 3 to 5 significant relationships or attractions. For each one, describe the emotional dynamic, not their personality, the dynamic. Were you always chasing and they were always slightly out of reach? Were you the stable one and they were the chaos? Were you giving more than you received? And did that feel normal? Or did it feel like something you'd accepted? Look at the list. Find the thread, because there will be one. There is always one. And naming it, in writing, concretely, is the moment it stops being invisible. Ask yourself, if I describe the emotional dynamic of my relationships to a stranger, what pattern would they immediately see that I might be too close to notice? Break the pattern. 3. Grieve the relationships that shape the pattern. This one is the step most people skip, and it's why the pattern persists, even in people who intellectually understand everything we've talked about today. The patterns were created by real losses, real experiences of not being seen, chosen, held, or loved in the way you needed. And those losses have to be grieved, actually grieved, not intellectualized, before the nervous system is willing to update its operating system. Grief is not weakness. It is not dwelling. It is the process by which the nervous system releases an attachment to something that no longer serves it. And without it, the old attachment stays, pulling you back toward the familiar, even as your mind knows better. You cannot think your way out of a pattern that was built through feeling. You have to feel your way out of it. Break the pattern. 4. Actively expose yourself to what healthy feels like. Healthy relationships feel uncomfortable at first when your nervous system has been calibrated to dysfunction. The consistency feels boring. The availability feels suspicious. The kindness feels like it must be covering something. Stay anyway. Not with everyone. Use discernment. But when you find people, friends, partners, therapists who offer genuine consistency and care, stay in contact with that experience long enough for your nervous system to update its read of it. Safety becomes recognizable through exposure, not through understanding. You have to feel safe repeatedly until safe starts to feel like home. You are not looking for someone to fix you. You are looking for someone to be safe with while you fix yourself. And increasingly, as you do this work, you will find that you become that person for yourself first. I want to leave you with something. The fact that you keep attracting the wrong people does not mean you are broken. It does not mean you are cursed with bad taste or bad luck or some fundamental unlovability. It means you are human. It means you are running a very old program that made complete sense in the context it was created. It means you have been trying to find love using a map that was drawn in a place that no longer exists. And maps can be redrawn. They get redrawn in therapy rooms, in honest conversations, in journals written at midnight, in friendships that show you what consistent love looks like, in the slow and sometimes terrifying practice of choosing differently even when the old pull is screaming. They get redrawn every time you notice the pattern instead of following it. Every time you ask, why does this feel familiar, before asking, why does this feel right? Every time you sit inside the discomfort of something healthy long enough to let your body learn that this is what you were looking for. The wrong people didn't find you by accident, and the right ones won't either. Both are a result of who you are becoming. Become someone different. The rest follows. Which of the 6 reasons hit closest to home? Be honest with yourself, and if you're willing, drop it in the comments. Number 1 through 6. I read every single one, and I want to know where you are in this. Share this video. There is someone you know who has been asking this exact question for years and doesn't have language for why it keeps happening. This might be that language. For everything we talked about today, the attachment patterns, the nervous system, the emotional dynamics, our videos on attachment styles and anxious attachment go even deeper. Both are linked in the cards above. Watch them back to back if you can. Subscribe to the Relationship Blueprint. New video every week. You are not stuck. You are at the beginning of understanding something that most people never see. And seeing it, truly seeing it, is where everything changes. I'll see you next week.